Quotations from myself, segment 19. Quotation number 211. We are not only what we eat, we are also what we remember. And if food makes what we are physically, our memories makes us what we are psychologically. For as food is a physical matter that goes into building our body, the memory, similarly, are the psychological matter that goes into building our spiritual being. And since our psychological self is clearly made up of many different kinds of memories, and also because the whole cannot be known without knowing all its parts, the knowledge of all our memories is necessary for the complete self-knowledge, if that's what we are looking for. Now, the general memory consists of the two main parts. The larger one is the potential, or, to use modern, to start again. Now, the general memory consists of the two parts, or two main parts. The larger one is the potential, or, to use a modern terminology, the subconscious memory. The smaller one is the actual, that is, the conscious memory, immediately available to us. And since we are obviously, and by definition, is in a possession of our actual conscious memory, it is the recovery of the potential and subconscious one that is needed to fill the gap, so to speak, to reconstruct our whole personality. Thus, the recovery of the first, the largest, the subconscious part of the memory is absolutely essential to the understanding of what each of us as individual is, and that's why this aspect of Freudian psychoanalytical method has been such a great revolutionary achievement in the quest for man's self-knowledge. To repeat again, if we are what we eat, we must also be what we remember. On the other hand, the reverse probably also true. For example, given the opportunity, we will choose the particular kind of food because of what we are, and we all certainly suffer from the selective memory syndrome, remembering one thing and forgetting the others, because again of who we are. Unfortunately, finding ourselves in this circle, our inquiry cannot proceed any further, because at this point we are faced with a question which has been asked by philosophers since time immemorial, no pun intended, and which cannot be answered with any more certainty than the proverbial one, what comes first, a chicken or an egg? Number 212. Pleasure, according to Plato, is a feeling of satisfaction derived from getting something we lack. And the more we are lacking it, the more pleasure we derive from eventually obtaining it. As for example, when we are thirsty, it is the water that gives us the most pleasure, or when we are hungry, it is the food, etc. It is especially true in the case of water and food, for both are absolutely essential for our well-being, hence we suffer the most when we are lacking them. By following this way of reasoning, one may argue that understanding of what we perceived is also essential to our well-being, and as such can bring pleasure, while the absence of it may cause discomfort or even suffering. Such understanding may manifest itself either as a simple and automatic reaction of our body to the sense perception, like for example shrinking from a fire to avoid burns, or more complex and deliberate response of our brain to the information we received from looking, listening, reading, etc., in order to choose the most appropriate and beneficial for us course of action. In the extreme situation, the incorrect understanding of the perceived information can threaten our very life, as much as driving through the red light or drinking medicine intended only for external application. And so, throughout our lives, we acquire, because of its essentiality, the habit of understanding which serves us even in a situation when it is not essential to our well-being, at least not in a direct way, as for example, when reading a book, looking at a picture, etc. Thus, all men and women need understanding, since it is as natural for them to understand as to drink or eat. Hence the expression, hunger for truth, thirst for knowledge. And while the absence of either causes discomfort and suffering, to have them is to experience satisfaction and pleasure. 213. The ethnic minorities are both proud and resentful of their members who have made it in the majority world. They are proud because the achievement of the one of us gives to all of them the opportunity to bask in the reflective glory without actually having done anything glorious themselves. But they are also resentful because they view the success of the one of their own, whom they rightly or wrongly consider to be their equal, as a reminder to, an accusation of the rest of them of being unable to achieve the same. In general, depending on the circumstances and on the prevailing at any particular moment mood, the group will perceive the success of its individual member either as their collective success or as a failure of each of them. Thus, both pride and resentment of the ethnic minorities toward their successful members stem not so much from what they feel about those who succeed, as from how they, as the members of the same group, see themselves in the light of such success. Of course, it is also true that any ethnic minority in itself is not monolithic, homogeneous group, but in its turn can be divided into so-called sub-minorities and sub-majorities with their own specific dynamic of interaction. 214. If the world were a hotel, and each room in it were a different country, on the door of Canada there would be a sign, "Do not disturb, please." 215. Never compete with a man you think of as inferior to yourself. For if you lose the meaning of the expression, adding insult to the injury will become painfully clear to you. 216. In a certain sense, the subconscious is a former consciousness. Again, in a certain sense, the subconsciousness is a former consciousness that is either not used anymore or you used only occasionally, and then simply automatically without making a choice or arriving at a decision. (217) It is no wonder that the older we get, the less we think about the future and more about the past. For it seems that all that is good about life has already happened, and what is going to happen doesn't look good at all. The pleasant memories are always better than the unpleasant reality. And what is pleasant about the old age anyway? Comparing with being young, and unfortunately the old are able to do just that, is precisely little. In their longing for the past, the old sometimes go as far as reverting into childhood, which is one of the few psychological weapons they have to fight off the grim reality of getting old. Number 218. There is only one straight line between the 2 points, but there are many curved and broken ones. There is only one right answer to a riddle, but there are many wrong ones. There is only one true version of the events that have already taken place, but there are many false ones. The truth is both limited and limiting, and as such, attainable by and attractive to only a few. But the unsubstantiated speculation and hollow fantasies, distortion and deceptions are limitless, and as such accessible and attractive to many.